Hi everyone, thanks for joining me here, and this will be a video on how to use GitHub as a creator for your game. So programmer, artist, whatever, you're going to be jumping in the editor, working on stuff, so you're going to need to use GitHub. GitHub is a local or a remote source for your game. It just stores your game on the cloud and allows people to collaborate on individual files of that project and see other people's changes very quickly, which is very nice. So first things first, go to github.com, sign up, get yourself a username, use whatever email you like. It's up to you and your team to kind of dictate on how that's going to happen. Once that happens, make sure you give your username and or email to the person that set up your repo. They will need to add you as a collaborator in the game. If they have not, you will not be able to see any projects in here. So if you go to your home, you will not see any repos up in here or anywhere else. Once you are a collaborator, you will see a repo here, or there's a list somewhere else there too. I think if you go here, you can go to projects and things like that. So once that's set up for you, you can check out this page here. You can see all the files that are in your project right here. I've already uploaded a Unity project in the other video. You can use a couple programs to access your project. The default one that is installed on the school computers, and it's very simple and kind of like minimal. It's called Git GUI and Git Bash, depending on how familiar you are with those. You can work on those. My tutorial will not include using that one just because it doesn't want to work here on my work computer. It just doesn't like the conflicts with other user accounts that I have. Um, with credentials and stuff here. So anyways, but it'll kind of work the same way. If you are using Git GUI, you're going to go into this big green code button here and copy and paste this .git URL. So you click that here, and you will paste it into your clone button. If you do not want to use Git GUI or you can't, you can use GitHub Desktop, which is very similar, just a little prettier, really, a little bit more robust in a visual kind of way. So you can click on this, it'll take you to a site to open it if you have it installed. If you don't have it installed, it'll give you an option to install GitHub Desktop. It's a very quick install, which is very nice. It logs in for you. And when you get started, you will see this. You will see all your repos, and right here you'll have all the ones you're part of. And if you don't see anything here, it means your team lead or whoever is responsible for your repo has not added you. So you are going to click on this and you are going to clone your repo here. Okay, let me delete my old one just so we can kind of go through this from the beginning. Oh, I have it open, so it's probably not going to like that. Okay, so I'm going to, it'll automatically add this URL here. That's the one we copied from before. You will pick where you want it to go, and it will add this final folder there for you. So I picked, C personal Nagra, and I hit select, and it'll make a new folder for me based on what it was called in the repo. And then you hit clone, and it'll clone and it'll download all your things, and it might take a little while. Right, so when it says hang on, just hang on. Okay, if this hasn't, if nothing's shown up, if you go to your folder here, you should have my NC game or NC game, whatever it's called. If it's not there, then there's a problem, something went wrong. If it didn't go, you can go fetch again and see if anything happens. And if it doesn't, then let me know, obviously. Um, so yeah, anyways, there we go. Our game is here. We have our README file. We have our project with our git ignore that was set up by the team lead and all our stuff here. So now we're ready to go. Now you may notice the only things that were included on the depot, on the repo, I mean, are the assets, packages, project settings, and a couple files, and that's it. Everything else will only exist locally, right? So we'll be careful, and GitHub will use this git ignore file to make sure we don't submit files we don't need. So then you can open up Unity Hub and add your project. So let me remove this project here. Okay, so we're gonna add a project. right? Select that folder and right there, and it should open. So it's going to take a few minutes to open because it's going to have to regenerate all those library files and stuff like that, which is fine. It's just part of Unity. I mentioned in the other video, the git ignore prevents you from submitting your library files. There's tens of thousands of them. Like I think just by making a project, there was over 13,000. Those are files that only need to stay locally on your machine. And yes, this generation takes a little while every time you start a fresh project, but it saves a lot of resources and actually a lot of problems down the road because library files should not be shared amongst people. So it's not something you want to exist your on your GitHub server. So let's give this a few seconds. I'll pause and I'll come back when it's done. Okay, so we're back. Our Unity project has opened successfully, which is great. If you go to over here, you'll see there's a lot more files and folders here. And I'll just show you kind of what's happening here. So um, we go back to GitHub and it's saying we don't have anything changed so far, which is great. It means we've generated a lot of files, but it's not asking us to do anything. So let me just show you how this works. If I delete this git ignore file and I go back in here, bam, 13,000 files, right? This is all the stuff that the git ignore is preventing me from doing. So um, it does a good job, right? That's what you want. Nice, clean. It should only have the things you specifically worked on in here. So let's do a couple things here. So the first thing you're going to do whenever you start working is you're going to get the latest version of the game on your machine. So any updates that have happened since you last work, you're going to get those first. If you don't do this, you may be working with outdated files. So if Doug over there spent the night working on a scene, and I'm working on it today. If I don't get latest first, I may be working on an old scene that that was on there before, and I'm not working off of his changes. And then if I try and submit those changes, basically the GitHub is going to make you get latest on that file before you submit, and it's going to be like, oh, there's actually a new file for this. So then you're going to potentially lose a lot of work, or Doug is going to lose a lot of work if you try and push that file on there, which is not good. So first and foremost, get latest. And number two, be very vigilant with your team about discussing who is working on what and when. So, hey, Tuesday night, I'm working on scene A. Nobody else work on it till I'm done, right? This is my day to work on it, and that's it, right? It doesn't have to be that rigid. You could be more fluid with it, but it's kind of, dependent on each team and how good your communication is. But for the love of God, communicate. Programmers can merge code together fairly easily. It doesn't always work, but artists, a lot of times you're screwed. There's a couple merge tools for art, but they're pretty, I don't know, suspicious. So anyways, let's take a look at a couple things you're going to do. So I'm going to go back to my server here, and I'm going to edit this README file on here. Hello, number 2. Okay. So now let's say this is what Doug worked on, right? So Doug worked on this file. Let's say it's a scene file. I'm starting my day. I have my Unity closed. I open up my GitHub desktop or Git GUI. And the first thing I'm going to do, it'll probably do this automatically if you open it, but you are going to fetch. And fetch means it's going to check what's on the server, and it's going to tell you if there's some new stuff over here. So you'll see here it says pull origin, and there's one file, which means one thing has been edited. Okay. So let me see. Can we see what has been edited? I guess not in here. So anyways, I'm going to do a pull, which means I'm pulling down all the new things. So it's going to do that. It's going to refresh. And now I have the latest version of my project. Great. I can start working on it safely knowing that everything is new as long as everybody that was working on stuff pushed all their changes. If it's my day to work on stuff and it's, I'm supposed to have it from the morning, if you didn't push your stuff that night, that's on you, right? So, make sure you communicate that stuff as well. So now that I'm ready to go, I'm going to open up my Unity, and let's say I'm just going to start working on something, right? I'm in my, going to open up my project here. So I'm going to go to scenes. I'm going to go to my sample scene, right? And I'm going to create a 3D cube, whatever, right? Yay. This is my work for the day, right? So I save my work. I hit Control S. You see it's saved, right? All is well and good. And I'm done for the day. Now I'm going to go onto my GitHub or my Git GUI, and I am going to take a look, and it's going to tell me that two files have changed. My sample scene has changed, and the project settings scene template has changed for whatever reason. Oh, it's added a new one here. So you see here a plus sign says a new file was added, which Unity just added because I worked on a scene. This will also happen if I actually, in my project, um, create, let's say, prefab Alex 1. Okay, save project, go back to my GitHub, and you'll see here Alex 1 prefab and the meta file are brand new, so they have a plus sign. That means they will be added to the project after I do my stuff. The sample scene is yellow, which means the scene already existed on the server and I have modified it. So you see here, if I hover over, it'll tell you what's different. So new and modified. And if I ever delete anything, it'll be a red square with a little minus on there, something that exists on the server. If I delete local stuff, it'll just remove them from this list and there's no harm done. So this is a double stage process that you have to remember. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say these files I would like to commit to my scene. And so I'm going to check all the files that I want to submit today or right now, right? Let's just say, for example, let's say I'm going to submit my prefab only. So I'm going to have just my prefab. You'll see here that this scene has a meta file that it's made. A meta file stores a lot of the core information about each type of asset. Make sure you submit these onto your thing. These are important things that should be submitted. The Git ignore did not get rid of them, which means it is something that you should have. You don't want people to generate their own meta files locally because it'll cause issues. So I have my prefab and the prefab meta file selected here with the little check marks. On the bottom here, I'm going to say added new prefab. And in here, I'm going to say what? Alex prefab is awesome, contains, I don't know, a house. Okay, it's pretty important that you write what you're doing to your scenes here for your team members, right? So if I go to open up a scene and I see somebody's worked on it and things look weird, I can go on here and check what you wrote when you submitted that to kind of find out, why things might be strange. So I am going to commit these to main. Now, what's happened here is these files are actually not on the server yet. So if I go to my website here, um, if I go under, my game assets, there's only the scenes and that's it. The prefab is not here yet. So what I've done is I've committed myself to potentially or to eventually uploading these assets to the server. And you'll see here there's a push. A push means I'm going to push those files over, and I have one type of thing to push, which is that other section of things. If I do the same thing for this and I do it again, it's going to have two things for me to push. So I can kind of separate them out into little individual kind of things just for commenting and organization sakes. So I'm going to hit the push button. It's going to push to origin. And now those things should exist on here. So let's see here, assets. Might need to refresh. Where did I put my... Oh, it's under scenes. That's a silly place for it. There we go. Alex 1 prefab is now here. It's been added a minute ago. If I click on it here, it'll actually show me a bunch of the code for it. Yeah, I could blame people for stuff too. And I can see here pull requests. Oh yeah, there we go. Added new prefab. And if I click these little dots here, it'll tell me what my description was. So all this info is here when I select any of this stuff. So let's do that again. Right, now we're going to add our scene and our scene template thing that it wants us to add. Right, updated level 01. Right, I can even write my name, which some people like to do, which is just kind of people. It's already in there, but you know, added a box. So much work. And then I commit. Remember, it's not on the server yet. It's just in my computer on like a out box, basically, waiting to go out. Or yeah, and then I'm going to hit push. Okay, I'm going to go into over here. Okay, I'm going to go into my scene, and it's updated level 01. That's the latest thing here. And I could actually also go to history and see that there's been a few changes here to the project. So adding to project, adding new prefab, updated level. I can see that whole thing by user, by time, and so on. So it's pretty cool. And that's pretty much it. You know, that's most of it. You're pushing and pulling, and you're communicating with your team. That is vitally important that that happens, because if it doesn't, someone's going to lose work, and someone's going to lose work regardless. Now, one of the other pieces of advice I can give you is if you have been working all day on something that is very destructive, like if you're adding new assets, usually not a big deal. Those things won't go away. They will, you know, um, you can upload them, it's fine. You know, if something fails, they should usually be still on your local computer. But if you are working on a scene or, you know, some sort of file that you're editing, you know, something that already existed, and you work on that a lot, back up your work before you do any sort of GitHub stuff, because sometimes you can accidentally destroy your work. There's a way you can do it purposefully, right? Sometimes, you know, let's say I go back in here and I'm back in my scene and I've worked for a while, right? And you know, maybe I'm just not happy with this scene and I want to go back to the original scene as it was before, right? So let's fetch. Let's make sure we have here. So we have our stuff here that we've edited. I can right click on it and go to discard changes. And what that will do says I need to reload it. It'll go back to the previous version of the scene. Sometimes you will do this by accident. I still do this. I actually did this at work like 2 days ago. It was really stupid. And you will lose all of your work. And once a revert or discard happens, there is no getting that work back. It is gone. So what I would do is, you know, if I'm working on my scene and I've spent, you know, 8 hours working on this thing and I do not want to lose it or have somebody override it, I want to make sure that I have some sort of backup. You could just honestly, like for a scene, just save as and save as a new version of the scene. And you can even go into your project and scenes and like copy and paste that scene into a folder on your desktop as like a backup folder or file. um, you know, have some sort of backup, even the whole project. If you back up every night somewhere else, just like go right up here, take your assets and, you know, your, that's it, like your assets and project settings. Don't worry about your library and all that kind of stuff. Like take these things and just copy and paste them into some folders, zip it up and say, you know, backup February 8th, 2024. At least you have a backup of your stuff, right? It'll take 10 minutes, 5 minutes, even 20 minutes. It's way better than losing, you know, 4 hours worth of work or 8 hours worth of work or some ridiculous amount of time that you will not be able to get back, right? So just be careful, be safe, you'll be fine. It is a great tool to use. It is a big time saver, it lets you collaborate, all that great stuff, which is awesome. But anyway, so that's kind of it. You will run into issues. Please let me know if anything happens, and good luck out there. Okay, thank you.